The Seven Secrets of Somewhere Lake by Sam Campbell. Chapter 22. Tongues a-wagging. The shortest distance between 2 points may be a straight line, but still it is a long way when you are going home. We went as straight from Grand Canyon to northern Wisconsin as roads would permit, but it seemed to us we would never get there. At last we had put the endless prairie states behind us, and we entered the fringes of the northern forests, passing close to the shores of little lakes. The world is a mixture of visiting places and home. Jenny and I know of no region we do not love to visit, but home is our northern Wisconsin sanctuary, and to us it is supreme for the purpose. We must have sounded like a cage full of monkeys when we landed at our island that sunny afternoon in late August. Tony and Hybub had been advised by wire when we would arrive, and they had a boat waiting for us. On the boat seat, spelled out in birch twigs, were the words, "Welcome home, Sam and Jenny." As we rowed up to our pier, they came down to meet us. Such wild jabbering as took place. Everyone was talking and nobody listening. Zany barked his part of the conversation and wagged his tail until his hind legs danced all around. In spite of all the excitement, I studied Hybub closely. What I saw led me to emit one of my best war whoops. They all thought it was merely from joy of arriving home, and I let it pass for that. But really, it was provoked by the appearance of our lad. His eyes were sparkling with happiness, his face flushed with unrestrained excitement, and once more he was the atom bomb of life and enthusiasm we had known through the years. The woods had done it, I said to myself, and I emitted one more wahoo that sent the lake shores to echoing. "Oh, we're a couple of wrecks, panted Hybub, when at last we were in our cabin and calmed down to where conversation was possible. "What a day we put in." He and Tony leaned against each other for support. "You see, we wanted to have everyone here to greet you," Hybub went on. "Been planning it for days, but we got no cooperation. This morning they were all here. Zipper, Zowie, Zany, Xenia, Salt, Pepper, 2 extra deer, and 1 extra skunk." "And a bear," put in Tony. "A bear?" questioned Jenny. "Yes, a bear," insisted Hybub. Just before dawn we heard something big swimming and splashing north of the island. Went out with flashlights and caught sight of a bear just crawling out of the water on the west side of the island. "We wanted to keep him for you, but we didn't have a chance," Tony managed to get in. "We said, 'Here, bear, nice bear,' but he kept on going." They both talked at once, but we learned from the mingled jabbering that the bear ran the length of the island and immediately swam away to the south. Through our years on the island, we have had many casual visitors like that. We believe the island is in line with a long-used migratory route, and for centuries has been a stopping place for all kinds of animals as they come through the area. "That was at 4 a.m., bubbled Hybub. "Our troubles soon started after that. We couldn't decide what was best to do in order to keep the animals here for you. If we gave them breakfast, they might go away satisfied. If we didn't, they might go looking for their own food. Then we decided to stuff them, and maybe they would be so lazy that they couldn't move." "Wow, do we feed them," sputtered Tony. "They must have thought it was their birthday." As fast as they cleaned up a batch of grub, we brought them another. Zipper had 3 bottles of milk. Zowie had 4 servings of fox biscuits. Xenia ate scraps until she looked like a white striped balloon. Zany ate something of everything. "And then," cut in Hybub, "and then, in place of going to sleep the way we planned for them, they all started leaving the island at the same time. Salt and Pepper shooed them back. Salt and Pepper began swimming to the south, and Tony waded in and shooed them back. I caught Zipper just leaving to the west and picked her up and carried her ashore. Zowie went swimming out, and I caught up with him in the boat and brought him back. Xenia started to swim too, but Zany understood what was going on, and he turned her around. It was a madhouse, I tell you." Tony was holding his head. We raced around this island until we were dizzy. Pulling animals out of the water, we decided we got tired. We decided we would tire them out, but we were the ones that got exhausted. Even Zany here had his tongue hanging out about a foot. Tony reached down and petted the dog who was sitting right beside him. We found later that this was the usual thing. Tony and Zany were inseparable. Everyone slipped through our fingers except Zany, and he's always on our side, concluded Hybub. Our reception for you is a total flop. What is that about the best laid plans of mice and men? Okay, Mouse. Tony slapped him on the back. We did our best anyway. Well, you're a couple of grand fellows, and we appreciate your good intentions, said Jenny. The animals will come back. Maybe it is best that we don't see everyone at once. The excitement might be too much for us. Oh, burst out Hybub with sudden recollection. We're forgetting something. Come on, Tony. You know we have learned to speak a piece. I'm not in the mood, said Tony bashfully. Will you get in the mood, warned Hybub, or else I'll tell them about the biscuits you made with varnish. You do, and I'll tell them of the time you put kitchen cleanser in the soup. Don't fight, boys, I put in. No doubt there's plenty for us to hear, but right now we want you to speak your piece. I am sure it is beautiful. They bowed around for a while, whispering back and forth to refresh their memories about certain lines. Then they stood side by side, made stiff bows, and began traditional schoolboy dictation. We've been so good, he and I, to please Sam and Jenny we try. But now comes the day when we get our pay. Will you make us a blueberry pie? I'll do it, exclaimed Jenny, applauding. I'll do it right today. Do you have the berries? We have everything, said Tony. Oh, how wonderful. It will be to have a pie when we dare to eat the crust. Jenny baked a blueberry pie all right, and it was a masterpiece. I marveled at how she did it. Hybub, Tony, and I hung around the kitchen, and every move Jenny made, she bumped into one or the other of us. Everything she prepared, we had to taste. She was showered with inexpert advice. We kept urging her to put more and more berries in the pie until the top crust bulged up like Mount Rainier. When the pie went into the oven and started its cooking routine, the top crust broke loose and floated around like a raft. It turned out well in spite of us. I don't want to infer that Hybub isn't a good cook, said Tony, as he raved over the gastronomic quality of the pie. He is the finest can opener I ever met. But some way, on such delicacies as a pie, he lacks that feminine touch. Hybub didn't answer. His mouth was too full of pie. During the evening, all our wilderness zoo reported in except Zowie. Perhaps it was our imaginations enlivened by our desire in the matter, but we were convinced the animals knew us and were glad to see us. Zipper came up to nuzzle us, and Xenia, still wet from the swim to our island, stayed at our very feet for a long time. Salt and Pepper put in a belated appearance. Zany, of course, was expressing his joy at our return, though every few minutes he settled at Tony's feet, or if the opportunity came, jumped up in his lap. Obviously the two were welded together, that age-old perfect union of boy and dog. The conversation before the grate fire ran late into the evening. Each one had so much to tell, we finally agreed to abide by Robert's rules of order to keep from having all talkers and no listeners. Tony told things on Hybub, and Hybub paid him back in kind. Tony's experience with the strange skunk was told and retold, and it lost nothing in the telling. The boys listened intently to our account of the Western adventure. They drew from us every detail of our meeting with John Corn and Kona, and made us use frequently our brief vocabulary of the Hopi words. The description of Z-Bauer and our trip into the canyon brought outbursts of laughter from them. I was discovering how much other people enjoyed my misery. This led me to overstate the difficulties encountered in the interest of general happiness. "I'd give my piece of blueberry pie to see you on that mule," roared Hubbub. "You're mighty selfish not to do it more when people can see you." I just glared at him. When we came to my debacle of the mountain lion photography, the boys at first refused to believe it. "Sam wouldn't do that," they insisted. "But he did," affirmed Jenny. They then sentenced me to 3 days on bread and water. Most leniently, they announced that the strict, punishing diet was an addition to my usual meals. At this point, we unwrapped the painting of the lioness and cub. Both boys were intrigued with its beauty, but Hubbub was simply carried away. "No, I can't believe it," he exclaimed. "I can't believe anything could be so wonderful." For the rest of the evening, his eyes seldom left the canvas. When our tongues were tired with wagging and it was time to get some rest, Hubbub and I went down to the pier to see if there was a display of northern lights. Jenny and Tony were going over some verses he had written. Andrea and her 6 little coons were at the feeding station as we passed. We found that a faint glow of the aurora was playing along the horizon. Capella, the star that seemed to belong to our sanctuary, was semaphoring messages of beauty from its position just above the treetops. The air was vibrant with the calls of insects, tree toads, and frogs. For some time we stood in silence, watching the nocturnal spectacle. Twice Hubbub moved as if to speak, but no words came out. I could sense his response to the beauty before us. "Like it, my lad?" I questioned. Hubbub didn't answer in words. He didn't need to. He was loving his surroundings with all his wonderful boyish heart. I put my arm around his shoulders and said no more aloud. "Hold your grains, Hubbub," my private thoughts ran. "Don't trade your real self again for some false personality just to please the world. Sometimes we have to fight for the right, not fight people, but wrong ideals. It is the way we mold and keep our ideals. It is the way we grow from boyhood to manhood. The Creator has entrusted you with a most precious character, one wherewith you can serve the world and find happiness for yourself. Let no opposing thoughts steal from you what God has given." But Hubbub knew all this and more. Manliness was reaching forth from within him. He could not put it into words, but I was sure he would be forever expressing it in acts.